place to be, where the world spins wild and free. Grab the reins, hold on tight, we're chasing dreams through the night. Sit back, enjoy, let the fun collide. We're all aboard this crazy ride. Learn a little, laugh a lot. Joyride Studios hits the sweet spot.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing this evening? I'd like to welcome our special guest tonight, Mr. Mike Cotton, and I am Chuck Chuckles, and my co-host is Jimmy Ray.
How's it going, Chuck?
Good, Jimmy. How you doing this evening?
Man, you know, this is only our second show, and it seems like we've jumped from 1 to 10. We got Mike Cotton on tonight.
I know. I feel honored to have Mike Cotton in here tonight.
Oh, you embarrass me.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm just a kid with a dream, man.
I hear you. Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Well, what you been up to lately?
Let me count the ways. Stay very busy digitizing these days. This is something I've been doing for ever since digital came out back in the 90s. You know, we take just about any type of old media and we digitize it. And a lot of it's been going on CDs, DVDs, but we're now getting more and more calls to put it on a drive, usually a thumb drive. And a lot of people are taking the data and then putting it up on the cloud.
And what's the name? What's the name of that company?
Well, it all comes under Mike Cotton Productions.
Oh, okay.
So I'm basically these days I'm pretty much an independent with some helpers, but I partner with people like Dave Barnes, Barnes and Company Productions, and I have another partner within the digitizing business, Alex, who actually started running tube cameras at NBC back in the early 60s. And so tube cameras like tube TVs, I mean, the quality was like not there, you know.
Oh, wow.
But you had to readjust them. I worked one gig in Miami where they had tube cameras and went to the owner of the station and said, sorry, we've got to buy Beta SP.
Right.
That was the last. That was the last generation of tape they used in television production, and that was back early '90s. And then, digital came along and everything changed, so to speak. But doing that, always have some projects going on. We're getting ready to run a special for our regional bands here in Northwest Florida and South Alabama that want to step up on there. Today we called it a electronic promotional package for an artist. Back in the day it was a manila envelope with an 8x10 photo, a song list, and a cassette tape. You remember that?
I remember those days.
And you mailed them or whatever. But this we actually got a couple of the bands here. It was a Blackwater Country, did one with them. What we're doing is we knock out a 1 hour live concert of their best songs, and then we edit that so they've got a full show. But for getting gigs, we take that and narrow it down to like 6 or 8 songs, 30 seconds a song, to give a talent buyer, whoever that might be, an idea of what they can do. Because people that are hiring bands and spending money to book concerts, festivals, they're not going to sit there and listen to an hour or 2 hours. You're lucky to get them to listen to 5 minutes, So that's kind of the in the future now. We're in the future. And you're a musician, you know what that's about. They call them electronic promotional packages. So it's all you email it, text it, or whatever. But doing that, and we have different gigs coming up. I started my podcast a few months ago. I had to do a little break on it. Had some medical issues, which the world is hearing about these days. Had some quack doctors taking care of me, not good. But that's a whole nother story. But I'm really enjoying doing that. But I've done a lot of stuff in the business.
You've done some work for the Floribama.
Yeah, the Floribama. Actually, if I could, let me just back up a little bit. How the heck I ever got to Northwest Florida and became part of the scene here. Because there is definitely, we've heard about Athens and we've heard about Austin, Texas, and Memphis and Nashville. Quite frankly, I believe starting with the Floribama, a scene started to develop. Obviously, a lot of country music influence, but I think overall, I'm a blues man. I've been one since I was 5 years old, but I've dealt in all kinds of music. I even helped launch a reggae network down in Miami right before I came up here. In fact, I was in education. But anyway, my background is this. I'm from Atlanta, I may not sound it, but families deep south, my mother's family, the Webbs, came to this country from Wales back around the time of the Revolutionary War, but they were not loyal to the king, let's just say
Right.
that. My dad's people came in from Prussia to Canada, came into northern Alabama and married Cherokee women. So when my parents got married, it was a big scandal in Atlanta because my dad evidently married way above his pay grade, so to
Right.
speak. But it was a great thing, and but they were all very supportive of music and the arts, and I was around them as a child. My dad, they had restaurants, but eventually, and I was talking to Jimmy a little bit about how the nightclub came about in Atlanta at Peachtree Street, and this is back in the day in Atlanta. This is in the 1950s, the early 50s, and he had a building that they were doing auctions with, and some guy came along, kind of a kook, doc somebody, wasn't a doctor, and started holding square dances there, paid them $100 a night. They never got their money. And then my uncle, who was a prize fighter, and my dad and my grandfather you didn't want to mess with, went down there to collect their money one night, and Doc was out back throwing dice, and he wasn't too good at it. So they hired him and said, "You now work for us." And they quickly got rid of him. And my dad never really called it country music, called it hillbilly music.
Hillbilly.
Right.
And they had a band, a house band. As a child, a lot of this just is stuck in my mind. I think I have kind of a photographic memory, so to speak. But he had a group called Boots Woodall. And I don't know if they're the Rhythm Kings or whatever, but they were really Texas swing, even though I think they were from Georgia. So I was just mesmerized with that music. And he had in the front of the house, when you came into the lobby, he had Piano Red, who is legend if you know anything about the old Boogie Woogie players. There was Piano Red, his brother Speckle Red, and their other best friend was Blind Willie McTell that wrote Statesboro Blues. So these were the guys at the club. So I hung out there every Saturday. I was going to Georgia Military Academy in those days. I thank my parents now. I didn't think it was a great idea then, but it really set me for life to
Right.
respect people,
Right.
learn manners, a lot of southern culture from my mother particularly. But
That was a big education just growing up in that club.
oh yeah, so every Saturday I'd be home for the weekend, and I'd ride into town with my dad, and the musicians would be rehearsing, and there would be showgirls sometimes. I had to go back and check out the dressing room, make sure they're okay, and it's
Right.
a joke.
Of course.
Got to
Some
check on
things-
the girls.
Some things never change. Hey, it's strictly business.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but the club, it was very successful, but it was rough. And you got these coal miners, coming out of
Yeah.
North Georgia and stuff. And they at those days, Fulton County in Atlanta was dry. So what you did, they charged $1 to come through the door and $1 for a setup. A setup was a Dixie cup with ice and a ginger ale, a Coke, or whatever else. And but he said by 11 o'clock they were fighting, and he had Atlanta motorcycle cops. He said he hired the biggest ones on the force. They all got thrown out in the street. And he says, we got to do something different. This is not good. And they're making money. So he turned it into what we call a supper club. And then it became Joe Cotton Steak Ranch. And he came out of the gate swinging. He put together an entertainment budget. My understanding is this is probably 1953. His entertainment budget was $10,000 a week. And
Wow.
that would be like 30
That's
or
a-
40,000
Yeah.
today. But he figured, he's like me, if we're going to go for it,
Go
kind of
all
like
the way.
those music festivals I did in
That's right.
99 and 2000. So
Yeah.
what? I lost $100,000. We did it, right?
Right.
So all of a sudden, he kept Piano Red in front of the house, and Piano Red's quite a legend. In fact, there's a regional guy here, Brandon Giles, kind of like a Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah, I've seen that guy.
And my family kind of donated,
He's good.
gifted him a song my dad wrote called Big,
Really?
Big Rock Joe from Kokomo.
Oh, awesome.
So look for that on his album. But Piano Red had a fairly big hit called You Got the Right String, Baby, but the Wrong Yo-Yo.
Is that right? I like that. Yeah.
But it went on, and it was cool because my dad would let me bring some of the other young cadets from GMA at the
Yeah.
early shows on Friday night.
Right.
And we got to see Andy Griffith when he did his What It Was football, In those days, Andy Griffith toured the college circuit,
Oh wow.
and he played the
A lot of yeah.
hillbilly from Mount Airy or
A lot
whatever.
of people don't know that.
No, don't know that.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
I'll tell you about a movie he did. It's, to me, it's the best thing he ever did, but a lot of people don't know about
When
it.
he went in the military.
Yeah. So they came, eventually, while he was there,
No
on one
time
of his
for
things-
sergeants.
Well, he had Onion Head, but he had another movie called A Face in the Crowd, which was a
Okay.
dramatic movie about a musician that became overly popular, went to his head, and he became like a real bastard. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is a dramatic movie. It's kind of like Elvis when he did Love Me Tender. He really acted, and
Right.
it wasn't like a beach party movie.
Right.
But so that movie, if you ever get it's on YouTube. It's on.
What's the name of it
It's
again?
called A Face in the Crowd.
A Face.
And
oh,
we're all
oh.
musicians, so I mean,
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check
I
that
mean,
one
and
out.
you know, I mean, we know
Yeah.
the stories with athletes and musicians that get too much too quick, and they don't know how to handle it. You know,
Right.
so in the end, it's pretty. But the job he did as an actor it's
Yeah.
very, very heavy. So anyway, yeah, and they came in. They signed his movie contract was actually signed in the club
Wow.
on a Saturday, and I'm pretty sure I was there, and there was guys in suits, and that's the last we saw Andy Griffith. But he had Pat Boone when he was about 19.
Wow.
He bombed, but the big bands, Xavier Cugat when he had Abbey Lane,
Uh-huh.
Count Basie, Tommy Jimmy Dorsey when they made up there on their last
Wow.
tour, Duke Ellington. I remember one Saturday I got done picking up beer bottles. Whatever. Dad says, "You can go in there and listen to that guy. He's a big star." And Duke was just on the stage with his piano, and he was practicing. I'm just sitting there going, I don't know these people.
Yeah.
I don't
mean,
know what this music is, but I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Big
so-
band stuff.
yeah,
you know, when looking back on that, man, it's like, wow, all these stars. I mean, like famous people. But what did it seem like back then? Just people
well,
coming in. and
I'm a
music?
kid. I mean, you really don't. You know, I mean, Martha Ray played our club. You know, and people don't know about Martha Ray.
Yeah.
She's a comedian. She's a great singer, great entertainer. She played the club several times. She would come out to our house on Sundays. We do the Sunday dinner.
Awesome.
The Sunday, and she would be there. But you know, Martha Ray is a hero to Vietnam veterans because she would go to the forward lines and do shows, and she even holds rank as a colonel or something within the army. And I mean, just wonderful people. So you know, other players like Bucky Pizzarelli, John Pizzarelli's dad. He was with the Three Sons. They had a guy named Artie who was sick, and he played the 2-week gig. They had a song called Peg of My Heart, instrumental back then, was a hit. And years later, when we had the Jazz Society doing the Jazz Festival in Pensacola, he was playing. This guy was I think it was his 80th birthday, wearing a suit. It had to be 150 degrees. Guy's never missed a note. He never, playing like a hollow body Gretsch. I mean, just sweet people are like, the musicians are like, can't believe it. So he comes off the back of the stage and he goes, I go, Bucky, can I get my picture taken? Now, his son is John, I think Pizzarelli from New Orleans, who plays, he's kind of like Harry Connick, plays guitar as well
Yeah.
and sings. I don't think Bucky really sang. He goes, sure. I go, hey, I haven't seen you in 50 years. He goes, how old are you? And I said, at that time, I was probably my late 50s. And he says, well, where'd you see me? I said, I saw you in Atlanta. He goes, saw me in Atlanta 50 years ago. He goes, what's your name? I go, Mike Cotton. He goes, is your dad Joe Cotton? I went, yeah. Is he still alive? I go, no, he passed away. He goes, oh my God, your dad. And it's almost like hearing stories about Joe Gilchrist from Floribama.
Yeah.
The musician, he was beloved by the artists because he was a songwriter and an MC, he was a singer, and he just felt like he made a place for them to do their thing. I mean, that's really what Joe did. That was the main thing. He created a venue where, do originals,
Yeah.
What club owner tells you to do, they tell you to don't do originals.
Right.
But Bucky was funny. He said, the weeknights, we only did one show, and he said they'd close up at 11. He'd lock all the doors, send everybody home, and if there were showgirls, a couple showgirls maybe be hanging out.
Yeah.
And depending on whatever act they had that week. And he'd leave the back door unlocked, and he said every hot musician, dancers, everybody came in the back door, and he says they jammed
All
till
night.
daybreak.
Right.
And I shouldn't be saying this,
We've
but
done that before, Jimmy.
Oh yeah. No, we have done that before.
now this is the mid 50s. He goes, but
Right.
he says, I really felt like I should pay your dad at the end of that gig. And he says, there's another reason. I go, why? He says, your dad had the best weed that I've ever smoked in my entire life.
And that was in the 50s.
In the 50s.
And you're like, Dad?
Yeah.
Not my dad.
Yeah. So anyway, that went on. It's a lot of people get that venue confused. My grandfather had the big drive-in out on Whitehall Street, Joe Cotton's Drive-In, which was really famous for their onion rings, kind of like the Varsity out on that side of town. But by the late 50s, 57 going into 58, the hotels were booking these acts. It's kind of like today, the cost was just getting too hard to make a living.
You just had a terrible childhood.
It was
didn't you,
awful.
Mike?
So he had an
I would have loved to have grown up like that. You know?
He had an opportunity. Yeah, a lot of my blues brothers are like, it's not fair. You got
Oh,
a head
man.
start.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
In fact, back then, this is what really, really got me into music.
Yeah.
All my dad's people finally ended up in Walker County, a little town called Cordova, about 50 miles west of Birmingham. And word is my Uncle Shelt, he was Big Daddy. He at one time, I think he was Justice of the Peace. He owned the mercantile store and the cotton gin. So in those days,
Was he mayor also?
well, he didn't have to be. He was the law.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you watch that movie, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like that. His daughter, Zula, was married to Skinny, and Zula was like Katharine Hepburn. She ran the show around the antebellum mansion. She had Tennessee Walkers. Skinny just little problem with the bottle. I think he got
Right.
drunk and passed out in the bar one day and burned the barn down. You
Oh,
know?
wow.
So, but they had descendants of the slaves that actually worked on that property because our family had been there since Civil War days. And so on Friday, everybody got paid. So as soon as we hit the place coming over from Atlanta, it would
Yeah.
be, getting summertime, it'd still be light for a couple hours. I would run as fast as I could back to where their little houses were. And they're out there playing guitars and banjos, and they're like family. I mean, people get the wrong idea a lot of times that, our families, if they needed health care, when they needed a nursing home, or, I've watched this over and over and over. I mean, the black women that took care of me and my brother when my parents were working,
Uh-huh.
I think they had more power than my parents. you
Right.
know?
Right.
You didn't get out of line,
Yeah.
but they were below. It was just one of those. What was going on in society maybe was different, but there's a lot of beautiful stories too that
I'm sure.
someday maybe they'll be told.
Right.
But I would just get back there and I was just like, God, this music. This is kind of like that music here in the club, but this is like really raw.
Yeah.
So
What
To
an,
end this-
what an education.
I
and
know
then
it.
into
I know
this
it.
story.
Yeah.
So I'm walking back, and of course their thing is, when it gets dark, you got to come back to the house. So back in the old days, the kitchen and all used to be separate from the antebellum or whatever, because if it caught on fire, it wouldn't burn the house down. But their house, they had like a separate wing where the kitchen was. Well, no air conditioning. This would be in the 50s.
Right.
They had these big exhaust fans up in the top of the stairwell that
That's
would
right.
just blow this wind.
Yeah.
I mean, at night, sometimes in summer,
Yeah.
I have to put a cover on it, get
Yeah.
cold. So I walked up, and all the little brothers and sisters, I probably was rolling in the mud with them and whatever. So I'm trying to get cleaned off in the hose, and the window's open, and I can hear them to this day. My aunt, my great aunt, my mom, my grandmother, and they look out the window and they go, "Where's Mac?" "Oh, he's back there listening to that music." We don't know what's wrong with him, but we think his daddy's the same way.
Yeah.
And he's like he's hypnotized by it. But I don't know. He might need some counseling at some point, and I'm like, yeah, right. But, so, later on, my mom, she, I eventually became a blues musician.
Right.
And they supported her. My mom used to say, she was a very religious woman. She says, Mike, I love your music. I don't like the words.
Yeah.
And I said, Mom, you go to church tomorrow morning, right? I says, you'll be singing gospel. It's the same music. We're singing about the here and now, and y'all are singing about the hereafter,
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, my dad, things were not good with the club business in general, and we packed up. I don't know if he sold it or whatever happened, but we're in the car heading for Miami, and this was going into 1958. And my dad went into business with his father-in-law, my mom's dad, and they got involved in the land business back then, where they were land outside of Miami, out where the Alcatraz, the alligator
Yes.
Alcatraz prison. That's
Yeah.
actually not even in the Everglades. They say it is. It's actually in Collier County. It's just past. That was going to be a big jet port
Just south
back
of-
in the day. Yeah, it's
south
right
of-
off the Alligator Alley. I mean, I know, right? I've been fishing, hunting out there. I mean, I know back in the day, if I wasn't surfing, I was out in the Everglades hanging with Seminoles and Miccosukees and spent a lot of time out there. But
Yeah, that's
all
nice
another
of it.
story. But you know, so he got involved in that, and we did really well, you know, down there. And so I, you know, eventually got into school, and now I'm going into junior high, and wanted to play sax, and there was no sax available.
Position.
Yeah, position. So you got in the school had all the instruments. Back then they had
Right.
all strings. So I said, "What do you got in strings?" And the band the
Bass?
and bass. Well, they tried to show me a cello, and I went, eh. And he showed me string bass, 3/4. I was real short then. I was maybe not even 5 feet. It's a 3/4. Got a stool, and I said, "That's like a big bass guitar, right?" He goes, "Yeah." So I was classically trained, played in the school orchestra, I think all the way through about 11th grade. But I found out within a year or two, get a Fender bass and a Silvertone amp down at
Yes.
Sears and start a rock band.
Yeah.
And we played mostly, we did very few vocals, but we did all Dwayne Eddy, Ventures, and we went out and we played the Jewish schools and the Catholic schools. And, you know, we'd walk in, we were all greased up with lightning pointed boots and chains and Brill cream.
You know, you brought up your guitar, the Silvertone.
Yeah.
That was an acoustic. Was my first guitar.
Yeah.
And that was in like the 6th grade. I got it
Yeah,
for Christmas.
I had one too.
All that stuff's worth so
Oh my
much
God!
money.
You know,
Yeah.
it's amazing how
Sears.
Yes, I know.
I don't know how many
But
things.
the electric guitar Silvertone made it
If-
more valuable.
If I had half of what I pawned when I was a kid
Yeah.
at the pawn shop to
Yeah.
pay rent or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, man, all that stuff's like 5 times what it was worth. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the rig I have now is, I pretty much went into this rig in about 1980 or 79. Guy friend of mine was hard up. He was in the bar one night and we were playing, and I've got small hands for a bass player, short fingers, and kept trying all these different basses, even like the PV Fury, which was a shorter scale, skinnier neck. And I said, let me play that. He had a Fender Precision, and I said, let me play that on the next set I played. I was like, so what do you want for it? Whatever. I bought it for $200, and it had one little cigarette burn where they'd stick the cigarette up in the
Yes.
headstock.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of research on it. This thing is made out of swamp ash. It's heavy, but it's
Right.
got an incredible tone. And somewhere along the way, I had two dual Showmans, and both 61s. I know one of them got away from me. I know, but I have a Blackface 61. Just recently been totally rebuilt. Played it through. Bear with us, you people that aren't musicians. Played it through 215 EVs, and that was like, you couldn't get a more bluesy sound for the bass. You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
almost like
yeah.
it's almost like you feel it as much
Yeah.
as you know you hear it.
Yeah.
So off I went and got into different things. I mean,
And this was down in Miami.
this is all and so I got to see Miami at the end of Paradise, let's say, because we moved into the North Dade area, which they call Norwood, and in fact, I'm still connected to the high school down there, and I'm in the alumni and all that. But as Miami grew, it grew north and it grew west to a point.
Right.
But you had the Everglades, so you couldn't go any. You have places like Wellington and Loxahatchee. I've got a sister who's got a ranch out there. But it's kind of like here. Believe it or not, I finally felt in Pensacola. I've been here 30 years.
Right.
I says it's growing. I don't like it. I don't like
Yeah.
parking.
Yeah.
I got a deal on 20
Everything-
acres out in Beulah. So I'm,
No
out,
telling
I'm
what-
out in the country, so it's all going north.
Well, you
here.
imagine what Miami's like now.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I go down there. I have a son in Boca. He's done
Yeah.
very well. He's, thank God, right off the interstate. And then I have one of my youngest daughters in Hope Sound, which is the last of the really kind of laid back area till you hit Palm Beach. But it's just a city from West Palm or Palm Beach all the way down to Key Largo.
Right.
It's people go, well, is there any things like Portofino? I says it's 1,000 Portofinos in a row. I mean, those days every other beach was you could
Yeah.
camp on it. You know.
Yeah.
I'm native of Pensacola. I mean, when
Yeah.
I grew up in the '70s in Pensacola, and there were still dirt roads, you know, all over the place. You know, I remember when Softly Phil was still a dirt road, you know, and we were like, what road's going to be paved next? You know.
Yeah, I married a girl, was one of the Albury girls, and you know they're from here. I think they were like 4th or 5th generation, which had come. The Alburys had actually been loyal to the king, and they all left the Carolinas and went to the Bahamas,
Yeah.
and then a lot of them went into Key West. And I guess there was a big connection between Key West and Pensacola because of the lumber and the shipping industry back in the day.
Yeah. Pensacola did have a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
There
and
used to
their
be-
Alburys are boat
yeah.
builders now. There's still one family Alburys.
Bayou Chico, you used to be able to go across the drawbridge,
Right,
and you could see all the trees in the water floating,
right.
tied together,
Getting them
and
out.
it just went everywhere.
Yeah, Yeah.
You know, it was
Yeah.
a big deal back in the day.
Yeah, that was a big industry. Now
Yeah,
it's tourism,
right.
right? But
Yeah.
Well, not to change the subject, I want you to touch about Panama City.
okay.
Something you told me about. They wanted you to come up with an event for
I think
Panama
we just
City.
changed the subject to motorcycles.
Okay.
By the way, my
I
first
did it anyway.
that's
didn't I?
okay. By the way, my first two wheels, I was thinking I was
Yeah.
14, saved up my lawn money.
Yeah.
Had my dad take me to Western Auto, which was really Sears,
That's right down the street.
and
from
I
my
got an
house.
Allstate,
Yeah.
which was really a Vespa 125, and
Right.
that was my scooter.
Mine was a Honda 70,
Okay.
1973
Yeah,
Christmas.
they had the 50s then, and they
Yeah.
sold mopeds too. But
Right.
then, of course, all my buddies got older. They started buying Cushman Super Eagles,
Uh-huh.
and then a friend bought a Triumph Tiger Cub, and he was the baddest guy in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
you know. But
The
so
Triumph.
two wheels, I got interested, got around it. I have an uncle, love his name, Dixie Webb,
Yeah.
and he spent a lot of time up in Kentucky, but he was in the Army in World War II.
Uh-huh.
And the day he got out, and I have pictures somewhere, I'm going to try to find them. He bought, Indian had donated, like Harley, a bunch of bikes for the war effort. And
Right.
what I understand is Indian got in a lot of financial trouble because they kind of over donated. But they were selling those Indians, and he bought two Chiefs. He bought a Chief, regular Chief, drab green, and the other one was a Chief with a sidecar. And him and my aunt, they said they drove those things back and forth across the country a couple of times. So he was my favorite uncle. He'd always come to town. He'd have fireworks, and he was just another kid with us. So I learned a lot about bikes. He talked about the Booze Fighters, which was a club that started right after World War II. These were mostly gunners and fighter guys that were bored, really. That's how these clubs
Right.
really started, a lot of them. He never joined. But so I've been around the bikes. We played, my band Shades of Blue was my most famous, popular band for a couple of decades in South Florida, and we played, ironically, at a radio show called Shades of Blue. I was the only white guy on black radio in South Florida, and that was a story in itself.
I
And
bet it
just-
was.
It was fantastic. But so anyway, I don't know exactly how it came about. So I'm in Pensacola now, and I'm promoting concerts and
Right.
doing different things like that. And I got hooked up with the A-Bait guys, I think.
Yes.
And they had come to me, said, boy, it would be really cool to do a bike rally. So we talked about it. And so we started putting it together, Pensacola Bike Rally, I think it was 99. And it was out the fairgrounds. And we had, I don't know if anybody remembers John Boy and Billy on the radio.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But they had the old guys pass, Robert D. Rayford,
Yes,
the
he
curmudgeon.
Oh yes. I used to. Man, I listened to that
Well,
every
they're
morning.
still going.
Small world. And he was loud parks don't save lives. He used to
Yeah.
say he rode it like a Royal Enfield. He was like the real gentleman biker.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the idea. Let's get him as the grand marshal for the parade, because the
Right.
parade was going to go to the fairgrounds to the museum at NAS, and then we got hooked up with Melissa Wise, who's a local, and she was Playboy's first biker babe. So we had the two of them, and Robert D. Rayford, he was all in, and he called me one day and he goes, "You need to do me two favors." I'm going, "Oh God," I'm like the fix-it guy, right? He wants a jet helicopter, God knows what. He goes, "One, there's a Royal Enfield dealer now over in Mobile, and I've already talked to them, and they're going to give me a loaner Royal Enfield. These are English bikes,
Uh-huh.
beautiful bikes.
Wow.
I mean, and I think they're still making them. It's kind of like Triumph now. They're remakes of the old ones and what they look
Right.
like. Got all the new gadgets on them. So we got that. Then he says, the other thing is, I want to fly with the Blue Angels in the media plane. I'm like, okay. So for some reason, somebody in my office had the number of the public information officer. It was a lady, very nice, and she says, okay, I know he's on the list. It doesn't guarantee anything. She said, he's on the top of the list.
Ah,
So they don't
nice.
always, for whatever. So anyway, that was a month or two out from the event.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks before the event, somebody came in and said the Blue Angels crashed
Oh, wow.
up in Georgia, like Macon or something. And it was the media plane, and it killed the pilot
Oh wow.
and the media guy that was in the
Oh, wow.
plane.
Yeah.
So he's not going to fly with the Blue Angels,
Right,
obviously. And I turned
right.
around and I says, Yeah, the life of the promoter. I says, I used to worry when it rained, I'd get blamed on the rain.
Right.
This, I would have gotten blamed that I killed Robert D.
Oh,
Rayford.
Yeah. Just what you needed, you know.
So-
You said he's passed now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I
he's
did-
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a
Yeah,
riot.
probably 15 years ago now.
It's been a while, but John Boy and Billy, I think, are still. They're out
Yes,
of
they
North,
are.
They're out of like Raleigh or
Yeah, North Carolina.
North Charlotte or
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah. So anyway, so we went. You know, I knew all the protocols. I called all the 1%er clubs. Are you coming
Yeah.
through? We'll
Right.
make you a spot. We did all the right things
So it started at the fairground.
at the fairgrounds. This is the one and only, actually.
Yeah.
And so we got about 3,500 bikes there. It was successful. I didn't lose any money. I think
Yeah.
it broke even. So on Sunday, we were all packing up. They had the church and all. So it was about noon. Some kid comes up and taps me on the shoulder. He goes, "Are you Mike Cotton?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm with the Panama City Beach Tourist Development Council, and we think we've got the right venue for a big motorcycle rally." And I knew a little bit about Panama City because even
Yeah.
as a kid from Atlanta, we'd either go to Panama City or Daytona Beach
Right.
on vacations.
Yeah.
And when we moved to Miami, that's all about my surfing history. We'd go to Daytona, and that's actually where I started surfing on a summer vacation. But anyway, I says, 200 hotels, 27 miles of beautiful beach. I think you may have Daytona Beach, to tell you the truth, but you got to get behind it, you know. So I went over there. They just had opened that new visitor center, and it was half empty. And we met with them I probably didn't meet with them for more than a couple hours. The next thing I know, they gave us half the building. They gave us computers. I brought in
Anything
my
you
staff,
needed.
whatever we needed. And so that was that was October, whatever. So the rally's going to be actually in April, I guess, in 2000. So we didn't have much over 3 or 4 months to put the whole
Wow.
thing together, and we worked around the clock.
We were doing the blues festival and that at the same time then.
Yeah. Well, the other festivals I did, contrary to not listening to my friends that are national agents around the country. So I had the great idea that we would do a miniature version of the New Orleans Festival. You know, blues, a lot of blues, but some Cajun and some jazz, and we do small scale 2 stages and all. So we did one of those around the same time, and then we kind of got peeved at. We had sponsorship downtown, Louis Beer, Budweiser, Collier with the Great Southern Restaurants. All they backed us, but a lot of the little businesses, you know, they were just feeding off of us. So we moved it to the fairgrounds the next year.
Yeah.
And I probably put, between those 2 shows, I put over $100,000 on the stage. I mean, Denise LaSalle, Bobby Rush with like a 10-piece band, the Booty Girls.
Yeah.
I mean, white kids are coming up to me going, "Mr. Cotton, what's that? What's that?" I go, "Well, if you went back in time to Mississippi in 1940s, you'd go in a juke joint. This is what you would see. This is, you know, part of the." But
I remember downtown we wanted B.B. King
yeah.
and he was wanting 50 grand.
Oh yeah. Well, the problem when you get into bigger acts,
Yeah.
there's 3 contracts. There's
Right.
the one to play.
Yeah.
There's the back line for any equipment you got to have. In fact, I pulled in a B3 for that show I forgot, Little Charlie and the Nightcats. Maybe I don't know if we ever actually used it. John Straub, I don't know if you know him.
Yes.
He brought that in. It's still in his living room. But we advertised in New Orleans, Mobile, and most of the people were from out of town. They were not.
Right.
We were ahead of our time. It would work today because the Blues Society's big and
Yeah.
bad, and there's people from all over the country here now.
Yeah, I enjoyed that
And,
a lot. I really
and
did.
I always made a joke that I should have done a country music festival with a Texas cage match to the death. That's what we do. They said, "Yeah, you saw a lot of things," but it was we were too ahead of our time because there's people from New Orleans and Baton
Right.
Rouge and Mobile, and they're going, "This is 99."
And then we had the weather.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Well, that
Yeah.
For me, the only good thing is I ended up in the Fish House playing bass for
Right.
both.
I remember that.
Little Jimmy King
I do
and Bobby
remember that.
Rush. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
And then I played the whole
Yeah.
thing, and I think,
And I was still out there working,
you know,
just to let you know.
really. I think my wife at the time yelled at me for doing that. But I said, I'll never have a chance to get both
No,
these guys
you-
on stage.
that's right.
And they liked it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. We did a bunch of other. We just had the 25th anniversary of the Blues Society, and Jim Richmond, who's the vice president, came to my house, and he had me start pulling boxes out. And I just looked at concert after concert at just different venues, and
Yeah.
plus those shows. And but I'll tell you this: if I had just broken even on those shows, we'd still be doing the bike rally here. You know, I don't know
Yeah,
if it'd be the
gotcha.
fairgrounds, but it'd still be going on here.
Right.
So anyway, So we went to work over at Panama City, pretty much just came home on Sundays, went back, we rented a house by Club La Vila, or as we used to call it, Club La Filia. I don't think I think those guys left the country.
I actually played in another band there once.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wild. It was kind of like their Floribama, but their Floribama on
Yeah.
cocaine.
Yeah.
Right.
They weren't even going to ask that, I don't think. But yeah, huge club. I actually did a Mardi Gras there too
Yeah.
before I left, and I was the first person to commandeer their parking lot. Well, they're not even open in the middle of winter anyway, so I got their parking lot to put vendors in there. But so the show went on. We estimate about 13,000 bikes there. Brought in Molly Hatchet, I don't know, a bunch of different bands. And we did the blues festival. Did you go to the blues festival over there? We did that in August, and then in January we did Mardi Gras. But I just didn't like some of the people were getting involved. And I'm really a startup guy. I'm not the guy that's going to be year after year. And those big events like Springfest here in Pensacola,
Yeah.
they'll take
I missed that.
they take a month. I worked behind the scenes when we went over
Oh man,
100,000.
I tell you real quick, sorry to interrupt,
No,
man,
no,
but
go
like when they were doing that here, it was like 3 days for $35, and
Yeah.
I saw every classic band I never thought I would see, like Jethro Tull,
Yeah.
War,
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it was
Cheap
great.
Trick.
Yeah,
Cheap
amazing.
Trick.
Well, the problem with a lot
Right
of
from-
these community festivals is they got people running them that aren't in the business, so to speak.
Right.
I'd been called in a couple times to run it, and I just like it's too much politics and all this. I'll help, but they had a guy. They finally got smart. They hired a guy named Bill.
You need to get that going again, Mike.
Yeah.
Give me the money. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Man, I would love that.
But
Will you
lot
take
of
a
these-
check?
A lot of these big hold it. A lot of these big festivals have crashed and burned. Like
Yes.
we had Bayfest in Mobile, and they had the city giving them like $1 million or something.
Yeah.
But Springfest got up to I think it was about a $3.5 million budget. But they got smart because it was getting scary for the size. And I actually was a vendor at the second one on Palafox Street
Really?
down there. And in fact, Joan Baez came in my shop and bought a T-shirt or something, and that was pretty cool. But so Bill Garlock, he was noted. I knew some of the shows he had pulled off in Santa Barbara, which is really upscale. These car shows where they bring in like these Bentleys that are worth $1 million and stuff like that. But he'd done other stuff, so I knew he was. So he showed up, and this would be towards the end of spring. I don't think after he left, Springfest lasted another year or two. But I'm in my little office across the street from Trader John's, and phone rings, and is Mike there? And I go, yeah, speaking. And he goes, it's Bill Garlock. Do you know who I am? I go, yeah, I know exactly who you are. He says, I want to take you to lunch. So, I just said, look. He goes, I understand why, with your background, why you're here.
Yeah.
It just seems like a natural. I says, because I don't answer to a board of 27 different people.
Yes.
They want to give me one person,
Right.
and they can tell the other 26 what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just some of these board meetings I've gone to with these festivals. I'll tell you a funny story in a minute about Havana, Florida, near Tallahassee. But anyway, I worked with Bill. I said, Bill, I'm here. We work around the clock, whatever you need. I know everybody. I got carpenters, I got electricians, whatever. And he would call me. I mean, he'd call me sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning. We need to get this stage. I'd mobilize my people. So he even made a little speech that without Mike's crew, we couldn't have pulled this off. But he took it over 100,000, and the second year was like 110. He did something I have done in the past. He asked for a raise.
Is that right?
He was gone. He was gone, and then it began to detonate, really.
Right.
And they moved it over by the Civic Center and under the freeway, and
Yeah, it just went.
Yeah, but this happened. I mean, New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Fest. What's that? What's his name? That came to close to going under at one time. That was when the economy was really. By 2008, the economy was really in bad shape. Back then. But anyway, going back to Thunder Beach, some really cool things just happened recently. They had the 25th anniversary, and Kelly Hunley, who is like their resident blues band over there, Kelly Hunley and the Healers, and his bass player for many years is David Goldflies, who I think he took Barry Oakley's place. He's on 2 albums with the Allman Brothers.
Nice.
So he's their bass player. So we were talking, and I said, "Well, my cousin's coming down. My cousin and his wife don't even know there's a motorcycle rally. They got
just there listening to music.
Yeah, they got points, and they got like the penthouse at the Marriott or something. They just invited me to come over. Got my own room, my own suite, and everything. He goes, I go, so would you like to have the founder of Thunder Beach sit in and play bass for me?
Yeah.
He goes, that is like too cool.
Yeah.
And it's the 25th.
Right.
So
I
he had to-
remember-
he
I
had to-
remember
he
you
check
just-
it with the owner and
Yeah.
everything of
Right.
the event. And everything was cool. So I got there and they wanted to play Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night and close the show. But I had another. We had. Come on, help me out here. Vietnam Bronze Star.
I like it.
Rocky Blyer.
Okay.
We had him here live in Fort Walton for the 50th anniversary of the signing of the armistice or the peace treaty in Vietnam. So I couldn't, I've done
Right.
some work more, including a movie
Right.
with Rocky. But Thursday and Friday I did that, and they each night when I got done playing. Now David is like he's got like a 22-string bass. And all. I'm like, are you sure you were in the Allman Brothers? And so Kelly gets up there. He's like, oh, you're an in-the-pocket player. I go, that's what I do, man.
Yeah.
And I'm there for being the drummer there for you. And it was a blast. And then it was real nice. They read a proclamation. This guy here started this. This was a dirt lot.
Yeah.
It built
Right.
stages and vendors, and we had like 10, 15,000 bikes and all that. Everybody's like,
You,
so it was kind of cool.
you were riding an Indian.
Yeah,
back
well,
then,
what I
right?
did it's weird with these shows. I can tell you just bukus of stories about
Mm-hmm.
putting the behind the scenes is always more entertaining than
Of course.
in front,
Yeah.
front of the house. So once we've locked everything in, the council's given us seed money. So
Mm-hmm.
we kind of own the show. So first call I make is to the she is one of the is it Anheuser-Busch, the family. Susie Bush, I think. She ran the distribution for Anheuser-Busch in Tallahassee. Called the marketing director. Not interested.
Really?
I mean, the first person you called. And I think we even had muscular
That's
dystrophy.
not a good sign.
Muscular dystrophy, which is their charity. I know
Yes.
Harley gives $1 million a year, used to. So anyway, they passed. And I had an intern. This kid, some brilliance from our interns. Today trying to hire these kids it's a challenge.
It's different.
He comes up to me. He goes, Mr. Cotton. He says, "Do you know what PBR is?" It's kind of what PBR is. I grew up on Pabst Blue Ribbon, America's beer. He says the college kids are drinking this stuff. It's become like a thing.
Yeah.
I said, find out where the regional or the national marketing director is. Get his number. I called the guy. Bill Devlin was the name. Start telling him about the event. He goes,
He's in.
are you talking to anybody else? I go, no. He goes, how much is it? I says, I need 10 grand. I need enough beer in the VIP tent to keep them people drunk for 3
Right,
days.
right.
Sponsors. He goes, no sweat. He'd love, because now he's upstaging Anheuser-Busch and Budweiser.
Yes.
He says, I'll be over in the company jet. Pick me up at 10 a.m. at the airport, and I'll have you a cashier's check.
Right.
So I don't know how long. And so some of the bikers are going, oh, Budweiser. I go, this blows Budweiser away, man. It's America's beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
When people make fun of us drinking PBR, I'm like, hey man, it won a blue ribbon. See,
yeah.
your beer didn't.
That's right. That's right. And then Harley. And Harley, I talked to like a regional marketing guy.
Yeah.
So I was in. This was when with Indian, they at the time, Indian went under, came back. There's a company in Italy. I don't know their name, but they do buy old American brands, like they own Chris Craft.
Okay.
And they brought Chris Craft. Of course, it looks like the old Chris Craft mahogany boats, but it's got everything.
Completely different.
Yeah, it's fuel injected or whatever.
Yeah.
So they had bought the Indian brand, and they I guess it was, I don't know who had it. They got to where, well, they sold it to some guys in Gilroy, California, and these guys didn't have the capital. They started building their engines and they started coming apart. So that one you see me on, that's an S&S engine.
Yes.
That's in that Indian.
Yeah.
But the sponsorship came through Big Bike Superstores. They were in Jacksonville, and they had opened a brand. They were the largest Indian dealer at the time. So eventually, Indian goes under again, and I don't know if the Italian company was before Gilroy or after, but anyway, there was a factory being built in North Carolina, and for whatever reason, Polaris stepped in, who had the Victory bikes.
Yeah, I think
Which are cool bikes, but they don't make them anymore. But they just don't have that mystique. And they bought the Indian brand. So this was all happening all at the same time. So yeah, they put me on that Chief. That was sweet.
Yeah.
That was
nice looking bike.
Yeah, it was just black. you know, and I'd love to get an older Indian and do a build on it. You can help me do it. But yeah, so that's kind of Thunder Beach, what happened, and life goes on. And, you know, so I've been around the motorcycle world, you know, most of my life. And my band, Shades of Blue, we played a lot of bike parties and rallies, a lot of one percenter clubs that you know. And we all, some of these guys are up here now, and I hang out and enjoy a beer with these guys and all. So, yeah, so that's going on today. That's probably in the top 5 or 10. They had some problems, but they are drawing on their biggest years. The spring rally, I think, draws 75,000 bikes, somewhere in that neighborhood. They have a Biketoberfest thing right around near Daytona's dates, and they draw maybe 40,000, you know, for that. But they've had some growing pains, and I know the Joe Biggs that became the sole owner of the brand, he kind of burned out. I mean, I understand why running shows like that, because you go right to work. Once you get done with one, you might take 2 weeks off or 3 weeks.
Start another.
You got to start working on the next, especially if you're booking bands and stuff. But anyway, he sold the thing to this guy. Had another rally up in New England. This guy came in and booked Kid Rock and Skinner and these huge bands, which you don't really need unless it's Sturgis, maybe.
Yeah.
And the story goes, I can only go by what was in the media. This guy went out and borrowed the money from locals.
Oh man.
Paid the bands, and then wrote the locals bad checks for $500,000. I think he's still in jail. So Joe had to come back and retake the event to keep it going. But yeah, you know, it's that long. You'd have to, you know, you need to pass the torch sometimes. But
well, Mike, I'm gonna tell you, man, I'm glad you stopped by.
Anytime.
Hey, how can we find your podcast?
Okay, my YouTube channel, which has been up for quite a while. It's if you don't have the link, just go on YouTube and they got a search panel. Just put at Mike Cotton Productions. Okay. You can also go to MikeCottonProductions.com, all lowercase.
Yeah.
Right. And we've got 4 of our films on there. I do film work, have been for the last 15 years with Dave Barnes.
Man,
That's a whole nother story. But you can see those films there. We're now beginning to put our full-length documentaries on YouTube, but you have to put up with a few commercials. But it's free.
No
It's
problem.
free. It's free.
That's fine.
For $5, you can get rid of the commercials over on the website. We also still have DVDs. CDs are kind of dying, but are dead. And DVDs, we still do sell those. And then I do a lot of, particularly with my biggest documentary I did with Dave called Back to China Beach, which is the Vietnam era. It's a story I heard as a teenager, friends coming back that were surfers, talking about surfing in the middle of a war.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
Hey,
And,
would you come back and talk to us some more?
Yeah, come back. We can kind of take, you know what we could do?
Man, I will.
We can do little minis and kind of pick a part of my life.
Because I'm gonna tell you, I mean, just what we talked about before the show, man, was just like amazing. I mean, we didn't even touched
I know.
even an ounce of it.
You know, as I don't know who said this, but I know Kenny Rogers. In fact, we had the local guy here that produced him.
Yeah.
Larry Butler. Yeah, won Grammys and all. But what was that song? You got to know how to hold them, know when to fold them. But you know, it's with me, and believe me, there's been some pretty terrifying parts of my life as well, because I've kind of lived on the edge. Maybe too long, but I'm still digging it. But I'm going to go out kicking and screaming in the end, you know. So maybe I'll get a Vincent Black Shadow and drive it off the cliff in the Grand Canyon with an American flag. Y'all talk about that forever. But you know, it's the hand. It's not the hand that you're dealt. It's how you play the hand. So it's like
I agree.
one thing.
It's what you manifest in your life.
And so and there's been cases something's been presented to me and I didn't pursue it, and I look back and go, that's a learning experience, because I blew it by not pursuing whatever that opportunity was.
I've done a few of those myself.
But when I started in the film, now I've been in and around films. I've been in films. I've been extras. I've worked with Philip Michael Thomas down in Miami. I helped launch the Caribbean Satellite Network, and that was really great until we ran out of $6 million and they didn't have any sponsors. But it was fun while it lasted.
Hey, have you ever seen that thing Mike Judge put together called the Tales from the Tour Bus. Have you ever seen
I've
that?
seen
I haven't
Joe,
seen
it.
Joe
Oh, my-
Gilchrist turned me on to that.
Oh my
yeah.
God! We can do your backstories and have an animation.
Oh yeah, yeah. That would be really
Tales
cool.
Tales from the Back Room, Mike
Yeah,
Cotton.
you're right.
All right, y'all put that on hold, and we'll do that next time.
Yeah, just pick, because my life really, all I ever really wanted to do, once I got into surfing when I was 12,
Right.
13, 14, I wanted to surf during the day and play music. And by the time I was in my 20s, and that was going to be blues and roots rock
Right.
at night. That's all I ever really wanted to do.
Surf and play blues.
Yeah, nice life, but try to make a living at it,
Right.
So, but all
Sounds
this,
like a good movie.
yeah, so all of it is, all of it's interconnected somewhat. So
Well, Mike, we really appreciate it, man. We enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
thank you so
we'll
much.
do it again.
thanks for having me. I'll come by anytime.
Yes.
Down.
Fantastic.
And we appreciate everybody watching. And I'm Chuck Chuckles, and my co-host Jimmy Ray.
And Jimmy's a badass upright bass player.
Yes, he
Reminds
is.
me of my
Yes, he
childhood.
is. And y'all
Oh,
come
shucks.
back and see us.
All
y'all
right.
have a good evening.
Okay,
Good night,
Y'all
everybody.
be safe out there. You hear?
we will.